Hey guys, welcome to another episode of TFL's Top 10. And last time we got together, Nathan, what did we do?
We talked about vehicles that we wish would come back from the dead.
And we always do the flip side of the coin, which would be...
vehicles that we want to keep dead.
That's right. These are cars that should stay buried and stay buried deep.
Damn straight.
And number 10 is what?
Number 10 is the PT Cruiser from Chrysler and the Chevy HHR.
Yeah, the PT loser, as some people have taken to calling it. And I have a story about the HHR. Nathan, I have a story about the HHR.
All right.
I rented it in Florida to go visit my mom.
Okay.
And I drove it from Miami to basically Marco Island, where she has a summer place. Actually, a winter place. And I hated the car so much that for an entire week, guess where it remained?
No idea.
Parked.
Oh.
I'd rather drive her old Honda Fit.
So you decided to sit there and then you didn't even drive it.
I didn't drive it. I hated it so much. I walked away from that thing thinking to myself, this is such a terrible, unjoyful, soul-wrenching car that I could not get back into it.
You know what? When the PT Cruiser came out, my mother, she was alive then, and she was looking at it going, no, that's kind of cool. Because back in her day in the 50s and whatnot, and you might remember this, there were, cars that were shapely and interesting. And she looked at it and she thought about it and then she drove it. And the best thing that could possibly happen came when she wanted to make a U-turn and had to make a 3-point turn because the thing has a turning radius of a battleship. And that was when she realized she didn't want it. But it was the originator of like the retro turn in that market, and they sold a bunch of them. And a lot of you Chrysler dealerships out there upcharged people up to $10,000 for that vehicle when it first came out, and you guys should be ashamed of yourselves.
Yeah, it was retro. It was like when the Thunderbird came out as well. Those cars were red hot, and then people quickly got into them and figured out that they weren't.
They weren't so hot, yeah. So let's go to number 9, speaking of not so hot.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites, the Trabant. And any Eastern European and Russian car from the Cold War, except for the Lada.
Niva.
That's right. Those cars were just, beyond bad is being generous.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that novelty of something being new and different that we haven't tried before. But I guarantee you guys, if you drive any of these vehicles, you'll be sick of it within a day.
Yeah, the Trabant has, 40 horsepower, 2-stroke.
40, I think it's 30.
Yeah,
it's
30,
bad.
2-stroke engine where you have to mix gas and oil. It's made of basically paper mache, right?
Cotton.
Paper mache, cotton.
Yeah.
All right, go for number 8.
Okay, yeah. Now this is an embarrassing one.
Unfortunate name.
Here's how the sentence goes. My mother owned a gold probe.
A gold Ford probe.
I mean, who names these things? Unbelievable. It wasn't a terrible car. It shared a lot of components with the Mazda 6.
Yeah.
And I think they called it the MX-6 back then.
Yeah.
And it was a good car. The second generation of that was a great looking car. But the name itself is what needs to stay dead. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, the original Ford Probe was supposed to replace the Ford Mustang. That's a little trivia out there.
Yeah, that was such a uproar that Ford said, okay, maybe that was a bad idea.
It was a bad idea, and the name was a stupid idea. But the car itself, the execution wasn't so bad. If it had a different name, it might still be around. But
I actually bought one.
You bought a Probe?
Yeah, and imported it into the Czech Republic and sold it at a loss. Long story. But anyway, let's go to number 7.
Okay, number 7. Now, this is one where Roman and I are going to do a little bit of battle. And the reason why is because it's either...
I own one.
It's either the Jaguar XType or the Jaguar SType. Now, I personally feel that the Jaguar XType needs to stay dead and buried because it's based on a Ford Mondeo.
So I had the Jaguar XType, and I think that car got a bad rap because it was based on the Ford Mondeo. But as a Jaguar and an affordable Jaguar, it actually worked. The S-Type, the kind of the silly retro car that was meant to bring back the Marquis grandeur, was just terrible.
They had a hot version of it that had a really bitchin' V8 and it moved really good, but they both are pretty awful cars for Jaguar. Now that Jaguar is building really high-end, high-spec, quality cars, those two cars need to stay dead.
Yeah, and the irony of the X-Type was that the sports version of the car actually, with the stick shift, had the smaller engine, where...
Yeah, I just don't understand.
Yeah,
bean counters can no longer do PR. God, stay away from that. Okay, let's go on. I don't agree with this one necessarily, but
all
he does.
Saturn.
All of Saturn. Now, for those of you who don't remember, General Motors opened up a separate branch altogether called Saturn. They built their own vehicles. They were completely different from all the other General Motors products at the time.
And what made them special was the fact that they had a no dicker sticker.
Yeah,
That's what they called it.
yeah, I know. I can't really. Yeah, once again, PR. It was a really good idea for American cars to do battle with Japanese ones, and to do it in such a way where you had a value car that was inexpensive to get into and inexpensive to own, and it had a lot of neat little goodies like dent-resistant plastic, which they got rid of, by the way, and it had a lot of other.
And a get-together.
Yeah, get-together, and they had other
It was Mini before Mini.
It was, and I had one. I did have one. I had a little sports coupe that was kind of fun, and I'm related to people who have had them as well. And you know what? They weren't that horrible, but they weren't built that well either.
All right, number 5, the Jeep Patriot and Liberty.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, they're not dead.
They're not dead yet. Well, no, the Liberty is. Liberty's gone.
But the Patriot isn't dead.
Yeah.
But it should be.
Yeah.
You know, that's the cash cow for Jeep. You think it's like a Wrangler, right, where there's like an aftermarket and you can take it off-road, but it's not.
No, it's really not. Very difficult vehicle to modify. Some guys do it, but they have to do it at great expense.
All right, number 4. Anytime you name a car after a spreadsheet, can you think of the car? You're in trouble.
Yeah. You know, the funny thing is, a lot of these cars we've owned, and I've owned a version of this.
The Hyundai Excel?
Yep. The Hyundai Excel had a cousin called the Mitsubishi Prius. Both had Mitsubishi engines. They're both tiny, and unfortunately, they were kind of jokes, and they were the brunt of a lot of jokes, which is, by the way, where Hyundai started from. Look where they are now. So they did something right.
Yeah, well, let's face it, that first generation of both Hyundais and Kias was kind of very inexpensively built, and it showed.
Yeah, but from that, they've gone to much better vehicles. So let's move on.
Number 3.
Oh yeah, this one, the Nissan Cross Cabriolet.
Yeah, the answer to a question no one asked.
Nobody wanted to ask, except for maybe somebody's wife.
Yeah, that's the story. That Carlos Ghosn, the CEO of Nissan's wife, actually wanted a 4-wheel drive crossover convertible. So they built it.
Yeah, and the only one I ever drove, the top immediately malfunctioned.
Yeah. But you know, Evoque is selling like hotcakes to convertible. It's really doing well. Yeah. So for some reason, if it's a Range Rover, it works. If it's a Nissan, not so much.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But then again, I don't have any hair to enjoy in the wind, so maybe that's the problem.
All right, let's go to number 2.
Yeah.
This is one of yours. You actually own this car.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those of you who knew me in high school. A Chevy Citation. Actually, there was a Citation 2. Now, first of all, what type of name? Who comes up with these? Citation? My father caught me racing in a Mustang, which I used to have, and we went to a police auction, and he pointed at it and he said, "You're buying that car." And that was my penance.
Was that your birth control?
Oh boy, was that rolling birth control. That car, I had the sports coupe, by the way. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I had guys in Pintos leaving me in the dust. But more importantly, the name of the damn thing was terrible, and it was just, there were a lot of problems with the car, and it was just a terrible, terrible, terrible idea to name it. Once again, bad name.
Yeah. All right. I'm not going to say anything about that because I agree completely.
Yeah.
And number 1, this is a little cliche, but it's true.
Yep, and that's the Pontiac Aztek. Yeah, it's been mentioned time and time again, but the reality is it really is a horrible machine. And here's one of the reasons why it's horrible that we haven't talked about before. It was partially built by a committee. Somebody out there said, you know what, we can use a minivan and we can take it and cross it with these new SUVs they're coming out with, and we'll have a great vehicle. And you know what, nowadays they're getting away with it, but back then, they didn't get away with it, and what we had was a terrible looking vehicle that wasn't as functional as promised. And I mean, it was a minivan, but it had conventional doors. Ugh.
Yeah, I watched Survivor back in the day, and they gave it away as the prize for winning Survivor.
Right.
I remember when the guy got it, he was like, yeah, and then they're like, hey, and you get to sleep in it. He's like, I get to sleep in it.
They had a tent, like an outdoor thing that you can get for it, where the back has a tent that hooks onto it. Yeah, woo! Yeah, but Tommy said it best. If you're sleeping inside of it, at least you can't look at the outside of it.
All right, and we do, as always, a bonus, and this is always a bad idea when you name a car after a city in New York, I believe.
I know, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't done Queens yet, but they did do Tribeca. Subaru had the Subaru Tribeca, or the Subaru B9, and basically it was a stretched out legacy. And its biggest issue, aside from the fact it wasn't very attractive to look at, was the fact that it was technically a 3-row crossover, and the third row was absolutely useless. It was too small.
Yeah, if you were, let's say, legless.
Yes.
you would find yourself very comfortable back there.
Yeah, or if you're really good at yoga.
Yeah, but those of us with legs, no.
No, bad idea. And you know, fortunately, they got rid of that, and now Subaru is supposedly bringing out another 3-row SUV in the near future. So we'll keep an eye on that.
We shall see. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to cut Jeff's legs off otherwise. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching, and remember, check out our new YouTube channel, TFL Now. Just go to YouTube to TFL Now. We got a whole bunch of cool videos. Nathan actually drag raced. What did you drag race? It was like a Mercedes versus Cadillac crossover. That was crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Versus a Fiat 124.
Yeah, that whole thing with the Fiat. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, so all kinds of fun stuff like that there. And thank you for watching. And remember, check out tflcar.com for more news, views,
and real-world reviews.
See you next time. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Hey, guys. Welcome to another fun and, well, I would say fact-filled, but there may not be a lot of facts here. Just a fun episode of TFL's Top 10. And what are we doing today, Nathan?
We are asking the world to bring back cars from the dead. Actually, we're praying to get cars back from the dead that most likely will not be coming back. But that's what we're looking for. Top 10 cars that we want brought back from the dead.
All right, why don't you start with number 10?
Number 10, and I know you guys will...